There's a force at work in your life right now that's deeper than you realize. You may not see it, but in every challenge, every delay, every moment of uncertainty, God is silently orchestrating things on your behalf. Imagine a presence so powerful that it goes ahead of you, clearing paths, opening doors, and setting up divine opportunities long before you even encounter them. You may be facing struggles, feeling like nothing is moving, like you're lost in a cycle of waiting. But God doesn't leave his plans halfway. What if, right now, he's arranging events that will lead to breakthroughs, preparing you in ways that can only be fully understood with time? Lean in and stay with me, because what we're about to explore might change how you perceive your journey entirely. Have you ever thought about what it means when God promises to go before you? It's not just a poetic phrase, it's a reality that speaks to God's unfathomable love and intentionality towards his children. To understand this, you need to grasp that God doesn't operate within our limitations of time and space. Where we see only the present, God sees the entire path, past, present, and future woven together in his perfect plan. You may feel the weight of current trials, but every single one of those moments, even those that feel burdensome, has purpose in his grand design. Think of Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, accused falsely, and forgotten in prison. To the human eye, his circumstances were tragic and unfair. But God was preparing him, molding him, and positioning him for something extraordinary. Every pitfall Joseph encountered was not a setback, but a setup. God was working behind the scenes, aligning events that would eventually bring him to the palace. In the same way, what you see as a delay or hardship may be God's way of directing you to a future that's beyond what you could have orchestrated on your own. God's timing, though mysterious to us, is always perfect. His plans are neither early nor late. As it is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." These aren't just comforting words, they're divine promises. When God assures you of his plans, he's telling you that every twist and turn you experience has been accounted for. Nothing surprises him, and nothing catches him off guard. Imagine God as a master artist painting the portrait of your life. Every brushstroke, each shade of color, is intentional. Some strokes are light and joyful, while others are darker, representing the trials. But altogether, they create a masterpiece. The challenge is that we often only see small sections of this painting at a time, perhaps only those dark strokes that represent hard times. And when we're stuck in those darker areas, it's tempting to question the process, to feel abandoned or even forgotten. But what we must remember is that God is the artist, and he sees the full picture. He knows what he's creating in you and through you. We have to understand that faith is not the absence of struggle, it is the confidence that God is present in the struggle. He walks through it with you. In the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he did not leave them alone. He stepped into the flames. The same goes for your situation. Even when you don't feel his presence, he's right there, working on your behalf. Have you ever noticed that God often does his most profound work in silence? When you're waiting and wondering, he's preparing and positioning. This is a season of divine setup. In the book of Isaiah, God declares, "I am the Lord, in its time I will do this swiftly." Sometimes it takes a long stretch of silence and patience before we see him move, and then suddenly everything changes in an instant. Your job as you wait is not to understand everything, but to trust that he's setting up something beautiful, even when you can't see it. God's ways are higher than ours. We can be quick to label situations as failures or setbacks, when in reality they are detours orchestrated by God to take us to his appointed destination. Often he allows us to experience disappointment to prepare us for divine appointments. Look at Moses, who spent years tending sheep in the wilderness, a far cry from his Egyptian royalty. But God was preparing him in those quiet years, preparing him to be the leader who would stand before Pharaoh and declare freedom for God's people. God uses what looks like delay to develop your spirit, to mold you into the person who can carry the weight of the calling he has for you. Every moment of waiting, every unanswered prayer, every door that is yet to open is a reminder that God's timeline is not our timeline. He sees things from an eternal perspective. He's not in a hurry. He's preparing the perfect moment to reveal what he's been doing behind the scenes. The waiting period is not wasted, it's a time of refinement. Just like a potter shapes clay, God uses time to mold your character, to deepen your faith, and to strengthen your spirit so that when you step into his promise, you are fully prepared. The enemy might try to convince you that nothing is happening, that God has forgotten you. But remember, Satan is the author of lies. His goal is to plant seeds of doubt, fear, and frustration. But God's word says that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. This means that God doesn't abandon his projects. He doesn't leave his children halfway. What he started in your life, he will finish. I think about how a farmer plants seeds. After the seeds go into the ground, there's a season of waiting before any signs of life appear. But even though it looks like nothing is happening, beneath the surface, the seed is growing, taking root, developing strength. In the same way, God is planting seeds in your life, seeds of purpose, of calling, of destiny. The growth may be unseen, but it is happening. When the time is right, God will bring it to the surface, and you will see the fruit of his faithfulness. In those moments when you're tempted to give up, remember that God has invested too much in you to let you fail. He's invested his promises, his word, and even his son. You are worth too much to him to be abandoned in the middle of the process. His hands are on you, and he's shaping you with precision. He knows the number of hairs on your head, the desires of your heart, and the plans he has prepared for you. And those plans are good. Sometimes it's the small victories, the whispers of encouragement, the subtle shifts in perspective that remind you that God is working. You may not receive a grand sign, but he often works in the ordinary, in ways that seem mundane but are profoundly sacred. His miracles are not always dramatic, they are sometimes woven into the fabric of your daily life, waiting for you to recognize them. This journey of faith is not about controlling outcomes, it's about surrendering to the one who holds every outcome in his hands. When you release control, you make space for God's power to move. Trust that in his infinite wisdom he is guiding you even when the way seems unclear. He sees the dangers ahead, the hidden snares, and he shields you from them. What might look like rejection or disappointment could be God's hand protecting you from something you cannot yet understand. And so even in the no's and the closed doors, God is working, shielding you from harm, setting you up for something greater. There are moments in life when God's hand feels invisible, when his voice seems silent, and when his presence feels distant. Yet these are the very times he's closer than ever, preparing us, protecting us, and positioning us. In his wisdom, he knows that growth often comes not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where no one can see the work he's doing. Consider Jesus' own life. He spent years in relative obscurity before stepping into public ministry. He was growing, maturing, and being prepared for a mission so great that it would change the course of humanity. God often hides us in these quiet seasons because he's preparing us for something far beyond what we can currently see. Faith is about trusting in what we cannot see, believing in promises that are yet to come, and knowing that God is working, even when we can't feel it. This is why the scripture says we walk by faith, not by sight. If we only relied on what we see, we'd be discouraged because not every step of the journey makes sense from our perspective. But faith calls us to go deeper, to look beyond our immediate circumstances, and to trust that God is operating on a different level. He is orchestrating events in a way that is beyond our comprehension. Every disappointment, every closed door, every delay is part of his grand design, moving us towards something far greater than we could have ever planned for ourselves. Our human nature often pushes us toward impatience. We want immediate answers, quick solutions, and instant relief from pain. But God's process is different. He is not interested in rushing us to the finish line. He is interested in refining us along the way. Each moment of waiting, every test of patience, every situation that stretches us is God's way of shaping our character and building our resilience. Just as gold is refined in the fire to remove impurities, God uses the pressures and challenges of life to purify our hearts, strip away what doesn't serve us, and strengthen us for the journey ahead. What may feel like a trial is actually an opportunity for growth, a chance to deepen our reliance on Him and our understanding of His grace. God's work in our lives often defies logic. Think about the way He used a shepherd boy, David, to defeat a giant, or how He chose a stammering Moses to lead His people out of Egypt. By human standards, these choices didn't make sense. But God doesn't look at outward qualifications, He looks at the heart. He sees potential where others see limitation. In the same way, God has placed gifts, talents, and a unique purpose inside each one of us. But these gifts need to be cultivated, and this often happens in the hidden places, far from the eyes of the world. It's in the quiet, often unnoticed moments that God is molding us, shaping our abilities, and strengthening our faith. When we understand this, we can begin to see every season, no matter how challenging, as part of His divine process. Many of us pray for a blessing, a breakthrough, a change in our circumstances. But what if God's answer is not to change our circumstances, but to change us? What if the real blessing is not the end result, but the transformation that happens along the way? God is less interested in our comfort than He is in our character. He wants to build in us qualities that will last: faith, endurance, humility, and love. These are the attributes that will carry us through life's storms and make us vessels of His glory. When we shift our perspective from what can I get to who can I become, we begin to see our trials not as burdens, but as blessings in disguise. God's work in our lives is often subtle. He doesn't always announce His moves with thunder and lightning. Instead, He works in the details, in the small moments, in the daily interactions, and in the hidden thoughts of our hearts. We may not always recognize His hand at work, but He is there, carefully weaving together every piece of our lives. He is present in the seemingly mundane tasks, in the routines, and in the quiet moments when we are alone with our thoughts. This is why it's so important to cultivate a heart of gratitude and attentiveness. When we slow down and pay attention, we begin to see God's fingerprints everywhere. We see His guidance in the people He brings into our lives, in the doors that open and the ones that close, and in the lessons we learn along the way. One of the greatest acts of faith we can show is to remain steadfast, to keep moving forward even when the path isn't clear. God honors persistence. He sees when we continue to trust Him, even when things don't go as we planned. He is moved by our determination to stay faithful, by our willingness to press on despite the odds. Every step we take in faith, no matter how small, is a testament to our trust in His promises. And as we keep moving forward, we begin to realize that the journey itself is part of His blessing. God uses every step, every stumble, every moment of doubt to teach us something valuable. God's love for us is not passive, it is active, intentional, and relentless. He pursues us even when we're unaware. He fights battles on our behalf, often in ways we cannot see or understand. Think of how He protected the Israelites, guiding them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He was their shield and protector, even when they grumbled and doubted His plan. God's commitment to us is the same today. He goes before us, behind us, and around us. His presence is our security, and His promises are our assurance that we are never alone, no matter how isolated we may feel. It's easy to lose hope when we don't see immediate results. But God calls us to walk by faith, not by sight. Faith is about trusting that He is working behind the scenes, even when we don't have all the answers. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. He sees the full picture, while we only see a fraction. This is why patience is so essential to our journey with God. Patience allows us to wait on His timing, knowing that He is orchestrating something far greater than we could have ever imagined. Patience teaches us to rely on Him, to lean not on our own understanding, but to trust in His wisdom. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when the wait seems too long and the burden too heavy. But it is in these moments that God is closest, providing strength and comfort in ways we may not always recognize. Sometimes God's work in our lives is not about changing our circumstances, but about changing our perspective. When we learn to see our situation through His eyes, we realize that every struggle is an opportunity for growth, every setback a setup for something greater. God is not just interested in getting us to the destination, He is interested in shaping who we become along the way. Throughout the Bible, we see countless examples of God working behind the scenes, even when his people were unaware. Esther, for example, found herself in a position of influence not by chance, but by divine appointment. She was chosen to be queen at a time when her people needed someone to stand in the gap. God placed her there, positioned her, and gave her favor for a purpose. In the same way, God has positioned you exactly where you need to be. You may not understand why you're in a particular job, relationship, or situation, but God has a purpose for every season. He has a reason for every placement, and He is working through it, even when we don't see it. God's silence is never a sign of His absence. Sometimes He is quiet because He is preparing something so significant that it requires our full attention and trust. When God seems silent, it is often because He is asking us to lean not on our own understanding, but to deepen our faith. Faith is not built in the comfortable, predictable moments. It is built in the uncertainties, in the seasons of waiting, and in the times when we don't have all the answers. These are the moments when we learn to trust God in ways that go beyond surface level faith. The truth is, God's timing is impeccable. He is never early, and He is never late. When He moves, He does so with precision. He knows the exact moment when things need to happen, and He orchestrates events in a way that aligns perfectly with His plan. We may not understand why certain things take so long or why certain doors remain closed, but God sees what we cannot. He knows what is best for us, and He withholds no good thing from those who walk uprightly. His delays are not denials, they are divine appointments, moments designed to teach us patience, perseverance, and trust. In every season of life, God's hand is at work, even when we can't see it. He is shaping us, guiding us, and preparing us for something far beyond what we can imagine. When we trust in His timing, we begin to see that everything we go through has a purpose. The challenges, the waiting, the setbacks, they are all part of His greater plan. God is not just working on our behalf, He is also working within us, transforming our hearts and minds to align with His will. If we truly believe that God is for us, that He is actively involved in our lives, then we can face every situation with confidence. We can walk through the valleys, climb the mountains, and endure the storms, knowing that we are not alone. God is with us, fighting for us, and preparing the way. He is our rock, our refuge, and our ever-present help in times of trouble. When we place our trust in Him, we find peace, not because our circumstances are perfect, but because we know that He is perfect. His love, His grace, and His strength are more than enough to carry us through. God is the ultimate architect of our lives, and He designs each moment with a purpose that is greater than we can imagine. Each day is an opportunity for us to see His work unfold, even if the process seems slow or hidden. When we understand that, we start to view life not just through the lens of immediate satisfaction, but with a long-term perspective that aligns with God's eternal plans. This shift in thinking allows us to embrace waiting with a different attitude, recognizing that each day is a step closer to the fulfillment of His promises. It's important to realize that God's purpose for our lives isn't tied solely to what we can see with our natural eyes. He is not confined to our limitations or our understanding of time. While we may look at the clock and measure everything by deadlines and timetables, God operates on an eternal clock. What may seem delayed to us is often the exact moment God is preparing us for something greater. His perfect timing is not always understood, but it is always right. As we trust in His timing, we learn to surrender our plans to His will, understanding that He is working everything together for our good. When you find yourself in moments of doubt, when the path ahead seems unclear, or when you're tempted to give up, remember that God is with you, actively working on your behalf. He does not abandon His children, and He is committed to fulfilling His promises. You might not always see the results immediately, but rest assured that He is preparing you for something powerful. Whether He's building your strength, shaping your character, or positioning you for the right opportunities, every trial, every moment of waiting, and every setback is a part of His divine strategy. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. This verse does not say that all things are good, but that all things work together for good. Even the painful moments, the moments of loss, the seasons of confusion, are being worked into the fabric of God's plan for your life. Every event, whether joyful or sorrowful, is being used by God to shape you into the person He has called you to be. So in those moments when life doesn't make sense, when the challenges seem too much to bear, remember that God is working behind the scenes. You may not see it now, but there is a greater purpose unfolding. God's faithfulness is unwavering, and He is a keeper of His promises. When we stand on His word, we are standing on a foundation that will never fail. His word is true, and His promises are sure. He has promised to never leave us nor forsake us, and He has promised to bring us through every trial. His faithfulness is not dependent on our circumstances, it is grounded in His unchanging nature. He is always working on our behalf, even when we don't feel Him, even when we don't see the evidence. His faithfulness is present, just as real in the unseen as it is in the seen. One of the greatest things we can do as believers is to learn to rest in God's promises. The world constantly urges us to hustle, to work harder, to strive for success, but God calls us to a different kind of rest, a rest that comes from knowing He is in control. This doesn't mean that we are passive, but it means that we work with the understanding that He is the one orchestrating our success. When we trust in God's sovereignty, we can release our anxieties, knowing that He is working everything out for us. We rest in the knowledge that our efforts are not in vain, but are empowered by His strength and guided by His wisdom. It's easy to forget this truth in the midst of challenges. Life has a way of overwhelming us, and it's natural to feel like we have to do everything ourselves. However, the Bible invites us to cast our cares upon God, for He cares for us. This invitation to trust Him with our burdens is not just a suggestion, it's an invitation to experience His peace, His provision, and His power. The more we learn to trust God in the midst of our struggles, the more we experience the reality that He is indeed working on our behalf. His work is always advancing, even when we cannot see it. His power is always at work, even in the quiet moments. Sometimes the things we are waiting for seem to take forever to materialize. Whether it's a breakthrough in our career, a healing in our body, or a restoration in our relationships, the waiting process can feel like a test of our patience. But in those moments of waiting, God is not idle. He is preparing the way ahead, aligning the right circumstances, and working in the hearts of others to bring about the perfect outcome. The delays are not denials. They are simply part of the process of God's perfect will being accomplished in our lives. When you find yourself frustrated by the pace of life, remember that God's pace is always perfect. He never rushes, and He never delays unnecessarily. Everything happens in His perfect time. If we can embrace the waiting, knowing that God is working in ways we cannot see, we begin to experience a peace that surpasses understanding. We no longer view the waiting periods as wasted time, but as vital seasons of preparation. These are the times when God is strengthening us, refining us, and equipping us for what's to come. You may be asking, why does God allow difficult seasons to last so long? Why doesn't He just give us what we need right away? The truth is, God allows us to go through seasons of waiting because He is preparing us for the future. The strength we need to endure the challenges ahead is developed in the waiting seasons. The faith we need to believe in God's promises is strengthened when we are required to wait. God doesn't allow us to go through hardships without purpose. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow in character, resilience, and trust. As we walk through life, we must learn to shift our focus from the problems we face to the God who is working on our behalf. We are often consumed by what we see and feel in the present, but God calls us to see beyond our immediate circumstances. He calls us to fix our eyes on Him, the one who is both the author and the finisher of our faith. He is writing our story, and though we may not always understand the plot twists, we can trust that He is working everything out according to His plan. In the moments when you feel like giving up, when the weight of the world feels unbearable, remember that God has not forgotten you. He is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the blessings that are on the way. You may not see the breakthrough right now, but it is coming. The blessings you've been waiting for are being set in motion, and in due time you will see the fruit of your faithfulness and perseverance. Trust in the process. Trust in the timing of God. He is always working, always moving, always orchestrating everything on your behalf. Sometimes we can become discouraged because the breakthrough we're hoping for hasn't come yet. We may be tempted to believe that God has forgotten us or that we're not worthy of His promises. But let me remind you today that God has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked you. His timing is perfect and His promises are true. Your breakthrough is on the way, and in the meantime, He is preparing you for it. Trust that the waiting is not in vain. God is working, and you are moving closer to the fulfillment of His promises with each passing day. God's work in our lives is also about deepening our intimacy with Him. As we go through life, we learn to rely on Him more and more. The times when we feel most distant are often the times when He is drawing us closer. The challenges and the waiting are not meant to push us away from God, but to draw us near. As we face life's struggles, we are invited into a deeper relationship with our Creator. We are invited to trust Him more, to lean on Him more, and to depend on His strength more than ever before. When we fully understand that God is always working on our behalf, we can rest in the knowledge that we don't have to do everything ourselves. We can surrender our worries, our fears, and our anxieties to Him, knowing that He is in control. We can trust that He is working behind the scenes to bring about the best possible outcome for our lives. Our responsibility is not to worry about the outcome, but to remain faithful and obedient to Him. As we do that, we can rest assured that He is at work, even when we don't see it. So no matter where you find yourself today, whether in a season of waiting, facing obstacles, or wondering what God is doing behind the scenes, remember this: He is working on your behalf. Trust that He is orchestrating every detail of your life, even when it feels like nothing is happening. His promises are true, His faithfulness is sure, and His love for you is unwavering. Your breakthrough is on the way, and God is already preparing you for it. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that He is always working, even when you can't see it. God's love for you is immeasurable, and it's in His love that He works tirelessly on your behalf. It is the foundation of everything He does in our lives. This is a love that is not based on merit, not something we have earned or deserve, but a love that flows from His very nature. It's a love that never fails, never grows weary, and never fades away. When God works in our lives, it is from a place of love, a love that transforms, restores, and strengthens. This is the love that sustains us through trials and guides us to victory. We often try to measure God's work in terms of visible results, but His greatest work often happens in the unseen. While we're busy looking for signs and signals, God is working deep within us, molding and shaping us. He is building character, faith, and perseverance in the secret places of our hearts. This is why it is so important to remember that God's work is not always immediately visible. In fact, some of His greatest miracles happen when we're unaware of them. He is working on our behalf in ways that transcend our understanding. Sometimes the only thing we see in front of us is a wall. We can't see past it, and we don't know how we're going to get through it. The enemy will try to convince us that there is no way forward, that the wall is too high to climb and the door is too tightly shut to open. But the truth is that God specializes in making a way where there seems to be no way. Just as He parted the Red Sea for the Israelites, He can part the walls in our lives. He can remove the obstacles that stand in our way and guide us into His perfect plan. The work that He is doing on our behalf is bigger than any problem we face. His power is limitless, and there is no obstacle that can prevent His will from being accomplished. In those moments when you feel stuck, remember that God is at work. When you can't see a way forward, trust that He is already making a way for you. He is moving mountains, opening doors, and shifting circumstances. He is aligning people, positioning opportunities, and working everything together for your good. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, God is always at work behind the scenes. His plan is unfolding in ways that we cannot always comprehend. But if we trust in His timing and His process, we will see the outcome of His faithful work. Sometimes God's work in our lives involves a process of refining. Just as gold is purified by fire, so too are we refined through trials and tribulations. The Bible tells us in 1 Peter 1:7 that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. This is not a process that is easy or comfortable, but it is necessary for our growth and maturity. The challenges we face are the tools that God uses to purify our faith, remove impurities, and make us stronger. In the midst of our trials, it is easy to become discouraged, but we must remember that God is refining us, making us more like Him, and preparing us for what's ahead. This is part of His divine work on our behalf. He allows us to go through these difficult seasons not to break us, but to build us. We are being transformed into vessels of honor, capable of handling the blessings He is preparing for us. The pain and pressure we experience are temporary, but the results are eternal. God is using these times to make us more like His Son, to increase our capacity to carry His glory, and to prepare us for greater things. When we face hardships, we may feel like God is distant or that He has forgotten us, but nothing could be further from the truth. God is right there with us, working in ways we cannot see. He is working on our behalf, even when we feel alone or abandoned. In those moments, we must lean into His presence and trust that He is doing something beautiful in the midst of our struggles. Even in the valley, God is at work. Even in the wilderness, He is shaping and molding us into the person we are meant to become. His work is not limited by our circumstances. He is the God of the mountain and the valley. He is faithful in both the highs and the lows. It's easy to focus on the obstacles in front of us, but God calls us to shift our focus to Him. He is the one who makes the impossible possible. He is the one who can turn situations around. When we focus on Him, we begin to see things through His perspective. We stop looking at the problems and start looking at the possibilities. We stop trying to figure things out on our own and start trusting that He is already working everything out for our good. Our job is not to worry about how the solution will come, but to trust in His power and His timing. When we do this, we can have peace in the midst of the storm, knowing that He is working on our behalf. There may be times when we feel like giving up, when the road ahead seems too difficult to continue. But I want to encourage you today to keep going. Keep pressing forward, even when the journey seems long and hard. Your breakthrough is coming. God is working behind the scenes, and He is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Trust in His process. Trust that He is shaping you, equipping you, and strengthening you for what lies ahead. It's important to remember that God's work in our lives is not only about what we receive, but also about what we give. As God works in us, He also works through us. He uses our lives as a testimony of His grace and power. We are called to be vessels of His love, to share His hope with others, and to be a light in a dark world. God is not only working on our behalf for our own benefit, but also to use us to fulfill His greater purpose in the earth. As we allow Him to work in us, He empowers us to be a blessing to those around us. There are times when we may feel like our efforts are in vain, when we wonder if we're making any impact. But remember that God sees everything. He sees the seed you've planted, the prayers you've prayed, and the sacrifices you've made. He sees the hidden acts of kindness, the moments when you've chosen to do the right thing, even when it was hard. He is working through those actions, and He will bring the increase. Just because you don't see the results immediately doesn't mean that God is not at work. Trust that He is using your efforts for His glory, and that He will bring about the fruit in due season. God's work in our lives is also about our transformation. He is always shaping us, refining us, and drawing us closer to His heart. The more we allow God to work in us, the more we become like Him. This transformation is not instantaneous, but a process that takes time. We don't wake up one day as fully matured believers, but each day is an opportunity to become more like Christ. As we yield to His work, He changes our hearts, renews our minds, and strengthens our spirits. This transformation is one of the most powerful ways God is working on our behalf. The more we reflect His character, the more we align with His purpose, and the more we experience His blessings. As you continue on your journey, remember that God is constantly at work in your life. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail, and preparing you for the blessings that lie ahead. Don't be discouraged by the difficulties you face. Don't be discouraged by the things you can't see. Trust that God is working on your behalf. He is faithful, He is powerful, and He is always working things together for your good. His work is perfect, and His timing is impeccable. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that He is always working in your favor. Your breakthrough is coming. The best is yet to come. Keep pressing forward, for God is working on your behalf. The journey of faith is not always easy, and it is filled with challenges, obstacles, and moments when it seems like the road ahead is uncertain. Yet in every circumstance, we must remind ourselves that God is still working on our behalf. His hand is not absent in our difficulties, rather, His presence is more evident in those moments of struggle than we may realize. Often, the challenges we face serve as opportunities for growth and transformation. When we walk through the fire, He is refining us. And when we find ourselves in the wilderness, He is guiding us toward the promised land. It is in these moments that God's work in our lives becomes most apparent. He is not only protecting us from harm, but actively shaping us into the people He has called us to be. Faith, after all, is not just about what we see, it's about what we trust God to do in the unseen. In the spiritual realm, there is much happening that we cannot see, but that doesn't make it any less real. God is at work in our lives every single day, orchestrating events, aligning people, and preparing the way for us to walk into the fullness of His will. Our job is to trust in His process and rely on His timing. Though we may not always understand why certain things are happening, we can be confident that God is working behind the scenes, moving things around for our benefit. In times of trial, it's easy to forget that God is at work. Our vision can become clouded by the storm, and we may find ourselves doubting His presence and His goodness. Yet God's word reminds us time and again that He is with us in the fire, in the flood, and in every moment of our lives. He never leaves us or forsakes us. Even when we feel isolated or abandoned, He is right there, walking with us. His work is not always visible, but it is always present. It is often in the quiet moments of our lives, in the moments of stillness, that God does some of His greatest work. We must remember that God's timetable is not our own. His ways are higher than ours, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Just because we can't see what He's doing doesn't mean that He's not doing anything. The waiting periods in our lives are not wasted. They are times of preparation, refinement, and growth. God is working in the waiting, shaping us into the people we need to be in order to walk in the fullness of His promises. Patience and trust in His timing are essential in this process. There may be times when we feel like we are being held back, as though God is delaying our breakthrough or holding us back from the blessings we so desperately desire. In those moments, we must remember that God is never late. He is never behind schedule. His timing is perfect. What we perceive as a delay is often God's way of preparing us for something greater. Just as a seed must be buried in the ground before it can grow into a tree, there are times when we must go through a period of growth and development before we can fully step into the destiny God has for us. This is not a process of punishment, but a process of preparation. God is refining us, stretching our faith, and building our character so that we can handle the blessings He has for us. If we were to receive everything we wanted right now, we might not be ready to handle it. We might not have the maturity or the spiritual strength to manage the responsibilities that come with the blessings God has for us. So in His love, He prepares us, molding us into the people He wants us to become. God is not a distant observer in our lives. He is actively involved in every detail, working behind the scenes to ensure that His perfect will is done in our lives. He is orchestrating events, making connections, and aligning circumstances in ways that we cannot see. Even when we feel like we are in a holding pattern, God is at work. Even in the moments when we feel like nothing is happening, God is preparing the way for us. He is preparing us for the doors He will open, for the opportunities He will bring, and for the breakthroughs He will deliver. Our role in this process is simple trust. Trust that God knows what He is doing, even when we don't understand. Trust that He is working on our behalf, even when we can't see the results. Trust that His plan for our lives is far greater than anything we could imagine. As we trust Him, we begin to see His hand at work in ways we couldn't have anticipated. His work in our lives often comes in unexpected ways, and His provision is often greater than anything we could have asked for. The power of God's work in our lives is not only in the big moments, the breakthroughs, the miracles, and the dramatic events. His work is also found in the small, everyday moments. It's found in the quiet moments of prayer, in the moments of serving others, and in the small acts of obedience. God is at work in every part of our lives, not just in the big visible moments. He is working in the mundane and in the ordinary, preparing us for the extraordinary. As we grow in our relationship with God, we begin to recognize His hand at work in every area of our lives. We begin to see His fingerprints on the details, and we start to realize that nothing happens by chance. Everything in our lives is part of God's divine plan. He is orchestrating every moment, every encounter, and every circumstance for His glory and for our good. One of the most incredible aspects of God's work in our lives is that He uses even our mistakes and failures for His purposes. When we stumble, when we fall, and when we make mistakes, God is still working on our behalf. He is a God of redemption, and He can take even the most broken parts of our lives and use them for His glory. The very things we thought disqualified us from God's plan can become the platforms for His power. God is able to take our pain, our mistakes, and our failures and turn them into something beautiful. He is working even in the darkest moments of our lives, bringing light into the darkness and turning mourning into joy. God's work is not just for our benefit, but for His glory. As He works on our behalf, He is also working through us to impact the world around us. We are called to be vessels of His love, grace, and truth. As God works in us, He empowers us to make a difference in the lives of others. The blessings He pours into our lives are not meant to be hoarded, but to be shared. He works on our behalf so that we can be a blessing to those around us, so that we can be a light in a dark world. We may not always understand the reasons behind the circumstances we face, but we can trust that God is always at work. He is always moving, always orchestrating, always preparing. His work in our lives is not random or haphazard, it is purposeful and intentional. He has a plan for our lives, and every part of our journey is leading us closer to His will. The beauty of God's work in our lives is that it never ends. He is continually shaping us, refining us, and preparing us for greater things. Even in the moments when we feel like we have reached the end of one chapter, God is already working on the next chapter. He is constantly moving us from glory to glory, from strength to strength, and from faith to faith. There is always more that God wants to do in us and through us. His work in our lives is an ongoing process, and as we yield to Him, we continue to grow, learn, and experience His goodness in new and unexpected ways. As you continue on your journey, remember that God is always at work on your behalf. Even in the quiet moments, even in the struggles, and even in the waiting, God is moving behind the scenes. Trust in His plan. Trust in His timing. And know that He is working all things together for your good. The best is yet to come, and the work He is doing in your life is far greater than you can imagine. Keep your eyes fixed on Him, and keep trusting that He is working on your behalf. As we continue to trust in God's plan for our lives, we must remember that His ways are always better than our own. We may not see the full picture, and we may not understand the intricate details of His work, but we can be assured that His purpose is perfect. The beautiful thing about God's work is that it's never done in isolation. He involves us in the process. He doesn't just move in the background and leave us to wonder about His actions. Instead, He invites us to walk with Him, to trust Him, and to believe that He is leading us towards something greater. The work that He is doing in us is not just for us, but for the good of those around us as well. Every time we yield to Him and trust in His timing, we become part of a greater narrative that is unfolding for His glory. The beauty of God's work is that it doesn't rely on our understanding of it. Even when things don't make sense or when they feel like they are falling apart, God is still working, arranging, and preparing things that are beyond our comprehension. We often get caught up in the way we think things should happen, in the timing we expect, and in the answers we anticipate. But God's plan operates on a different level. His perfect plan is often more expansive and more far-reaching than we could ever imagine. He sees things from an eternal perspective, and his ways are designed to bring about the greatest good, not just for us, but for all of creation. We have a choice in how we respond to the situations that arise in our lives. We can either choose to trust in our own strength and understanding or choose to trust in God's perfect will. When we choose to trust Him, we are acknowledging that He is the one who knows what is best for us. We are letting go of our need to control every situation and instead allowing God to lead us, even when we don't fully understand the way forward. Trusting God in these moments may not be easy, but it is in those moments that our faith is strengthened. It is when we are stretched beyond our limits that we experience His provision, His guidance, and His peace in ways we would not have if we had not walked through the trial. God's work in our lives is not always instantaneous. We often want things to happen quickly and we pray for immediate answers, but sometimes His process takes time. It is in the waiting that we are refined. We may grow impatient, but we must trust that His timing is always perfect. While we wait, God is preparing us for what is ahead. He is working behind the scenes in ways we cannot see, laying the foundation for the next season of our lives. It is in the waiting that our hearts are shaped, our character is tested, and our faith is deepened. When we look back at the waiting seasons, we often realize that it was during that time that God was doing His most profound work. We are called to walk by faith, not by sight. This means that we are to trust God even when we cannot see the next step in front of us. We walk in the assurance that God is leading us, that He is guiding us with His wisdom, and that His purpose for us is greater than anything we could ever plan on our own. It is in the unseen that God does His most powerful work. He is always moving, always shaping, always refining, even when we cannot see the progress with our eyes. Our role is to stay faithful, to continue trusting, and to keep our hearts aligned with His will. God is faithful to finish what He starts. If He has begun a good work in you, He will see it to completion. This promise is one we can hold on to, knowing that God will never leave us halfway through the process. He is a God of completion, and everything He begins, He will bring to fulfillment. As we trust in His work in our lives, we can have confidence that He will carry us through every challenge and bring us into the fullness of His promises. When we encounter struggles, it is not a sign that He has abandoned us, rather, it is a sign that He is actively working to bring about His purpose. We must also remember that God's work in our lives isn't just about us. It's about the impact He wants to make through us, The trials we face and the victories we experience are not just for our personal growth, but are meant to be a testimony to others. Our lives are meant to reflect His glory, and the work He does in us is meant to be a beacon of hope to those around us. As God works in our lives, we become vessels of His love, grace, and power. We are called to share the story of His faithfulness, to speak of His goodness, and to be a living testimony of His transformative power. Trusting in God's work means trusting in His ability to do what He says He will do. It means believing that His promises are true, even when we cannot see the end result. It means surrendering our will to His and allowing Him to work in us and through us. It means being patient, waiting on His perfect timing, and believing that He is always moving in our lives, even when we don't see it. As we come to the end of this message, it's important to remember the truth that has been shared. God is working on your behalf. In every season, through every trial and triumph, God's hand is at work, orchestrating a plan that is beyond your comprehension. His ways are higher than our ways, and His timing is perfect. Even when you don't see immediate results, know that He is preparing something greater for you. You are not alone in this journey. God is with you every step of the way, shaping, refining, and guiding you toward His perfect will. Trust in His process, trust in His timing, and trust in His promises. When life seems uncertain, keep your faith strong and hold on to the truth that God is always at work in your life. So hold fast to the belief that God is working on your behalf. Let this truth be a source of hope, strength, and encouragement. Trust that the best is yet to come, and as He completes the work He started in you, you will become a living testimony of His power, love, and faithfulness. Keep walking by faith, knowing that God's perfect plan is unfolding before you. In life, we each face moments where things seem to slip away, things we cherished, dreams we held close, relationships we treasured. It's natural to feel as though what's been lost is gone forever, as if the cracks in our lives are irreparable. But there is a power, a divine force, that quietly whispers otherwise. This power, which we are intimately connected to, holds within it the capability to restore all that has been lost. It's a force that is deeply attuned to your spirit, one that resides within you, always waiting, always capable of renewing what once seemed broken beyond repair. Consider that everything in your life begins with the imagination, your own sacred gift. What you see within, the visions you nurture in the quiet recesses of your mind, have the potential to manifest into reality. It's not a distant, vague hope, it's a principle as real as the air you breathe. The thoughts you think, the feelings you cultivate, are like seeds planted in fertile soil. With unwavering faith, these seeds will grow, even if you cannot see them. Imagine your life fully restored, whole and complete once more. Dare to see yourself as the person who has already been restored, as one who walks in the light of divine abundance, knowing that restoration is your birthright. Faith in this inner power isn't just an abstract concept, it's an active, creative force. When you call upon it, feel within yourself the conviction that what you have lost is already on its way back to you, renewed and multiplied. Doubt may arise, but remember, doubt is only a shadow, a fleeting distraction. True faith persists, despite any outer evidence to the contrary. Faith is the courage to see beyond the present moment and into a future where the light of God's grace has mended what was broken, healed what was hurt, and returned to you all that you thought was lost. Imagine yourself as a vessel of God's love, a channel through which divine power flows freely. In this state, loss is not something that defines you, rather, it is a mere stage in the unfolding of a grander design. Allow yourself to dwell in the belief that God's infinite resources are always available to you. These are not words meant for others, they are for you right now. Accept them, hold them close, and feel them radiate through your spirit. Each day, spend a few moments seeing yourself as whole, complete, and divinely restored. Feel the joy of it, the peace that fills you as you realize that everything you thought was gone is already making its way back to you. Just as a river flows unceasingly to the ocean, so does the abundance of God flow unceasingly toward you. Do not wait for outer evidence. It is the inner conviction, the quiet certainty within, that brings forth what you desire. Let gratitude fill your heart, not just for what has already manifested, but for what is yet to come. In this gratitude, there is a recognition that your journey is aligned with divine timing, that every moment has led you to a place of inner strength and wisdom. What you have lost has merely opened space within you for something even greater. This is the gift of faith, the awareness that God's plan for you is far more magnificent than you can yet see. Know that your life is a canvas, and the brush is held by your faith and imagination, painted with colors of hope, love, and divine certainty. See the beauty in every stroke, for it is there that restoration begins, even in what may appear to be absence or loss. The divine spark within you has never dimmed, it shines now, guiding you toward a life where what was lost is returned 100-fold, renewed in beauty and boundless grace. Every soul walking this journey encounters seasons of loss, moments when things slip through our fingers despite our best efforts. Yet loss is not an end. In the spiritual reality we're immersed in, loss is simply a pause, a moment that invites us to recognize the power within us, to see that restoration is already unfolding beneath the surface. Even in the quiet, still places where it seems nothing is happening, know that divine energy is working tirelessly, reshaping your reality in ways you may not yet perceive. This power, the very essence of God within you, knows no limits and holds no judgment. It responds to your faith, to the images you impress upon your mind, and to the beliefs you carry in your heart. Understand that your imagination is not just a tool, but a sacred link to the divine source. When you visualize restoration, when you see yourself as whole, complete, and unburdened, you aren't merely daydreaming. You are engaging with the very fabric of creation. The thoughts you nurture, the images you hold dear, become the foundation of the life you experience. This is not a process meant for the distant future, but a reality you can embrace now. Let your mind dwell on images of fulfillment, of lost things returned, of joy and peace restored. Feel within yourself that in this very moment you are worthy of complete renewal. Some may ask, how can I believe in restoration when everything seems lost, but faith is a bridge between what you can see and what is yet unseen? To have faith is to trust that the unseen reality of God's love and abundance is more real than any outer condition. It's to believe, even in the darkness, that light is on its way. It's a quiet, unshakable confidence that goes beyond appearances and circumstances. When you cultivate this faith, you're inviting divine forces into your life, allowing them to rearrange, restore, and rebuild. Every moment spent in doubt is simply a detour, but know that even detours lead back to the path of restoration. As you walk this path, hold on to the belief that God's love for you is absolute and limitless. There is no force, no circumstance that can separate you from this divine love. And in that love lies every answer, every solution, every restoration you could ever need. You do not need to plead or beg for this restoration. It's already yours, given freely by the Creator who delights in seeing you whole. Accepting this restoration is not a matter of convincing an external force, it's a matter of allowing yourself to believe that you are worthy of receiving it. Let go of any belief that suggests you are somehow undeserving or that you must first achieve some arbitrary level of worthiness. In God's eyes, you are already enough. The obstacles you face are merely opportunities to deepen your trust, to release old patterns of thought, and to embrace the divine truth within you. See yourself as a vessel of this truth, knowing that within you lies the same power that formed the stars and breathed life into creation. This power is not distant or selective, it is ever present, ever willing to work through you, and ever capable of restoring everything that may have been lost. Reflect on this truth: you are not separate from God. The divine is not some distant entity, it resides within you as a spark, a quiet voice, a constant presence that guides and heals. When you feel lost, remember that this connection cannot be broken. Your very essence is woven from the love of the Creator, and because of this, you are never truly without. What seems absent is only awaiting your recognition to return to you. With every heartbeat, you draw closer to that which you desire. With every breath, you move in harmony with the divine rhythm that orchestrates the restoration of all things. As you engage with this divine power, remember that the language of God is not one of hurry or impatience. Restoration unfolds in perfect timing, at a pace that honors your growth and prepares you to fully receive what's meant for you. Sometimes what we desire is delayed, not as a punishment, but as a divine act of love, ensuring that we are ready to embrace it completely. Trust in this timing, knowing that every day, even in the quiet, unseen moments, God is arranging every detail of your life for your highest good. There is a peace in surrender, in letting go of the need to control, and instead allowing yourself to be led by a force that knows exactly what you need and when you need it. In moments of doubt, return to gratitude. Gratitude is the language of abundance, the acknowledgement that you are already receiving, even if the physical evidence has yet to appear. Let gratitude be the foundation of your thoughts, a constant reminder that divine abundance flows to you effortlessly, regardless of appearances. Feel grateful for what you have, for what you once had, and for what is yet to come. This attitude of thankfulness creates an open channel through which divine energy flows freely, carrying with it the gifts of healing, restoration, and renewal. Know that no loss is ever final, for in God's realm nothing is truly lost. What has left your life in one form can return in another, often more beautiful than before. Allow yourself to let go of rigid expectations, to release any attachment to how restoration should look. Trust that what returns to you will be exactly what you need, arriving in ways that may surprise and uplift you. Remember, divine intelligence works in ways beyond our comprehension, often bringing us blessings disguised as loss, leading us to discoveries we may not have found otherwise. When you feel the weight of what's gone, let it be a reminder to turn inward, to seek comfort in the divine presence that never leaves you. In these moments, visualize yourself standing in a place of abundance, surrounded by all that you once lost, restored and magnified in beauty. Feel the joy of it, the fulfillment of knowing that nothing and no one can withhold from you the blessings that are your birthright. As you do this, you are aligning yourself with the flow of divine energy, allowing it to move freely in your life, bringing forth miracles of restoration in its perfect time. When you face challenges, see them as opportunities to deepen your connection with God's power within you. Know that every hardship is but a call to faith, an invitation to trust even more deeply. And with each act of trust, you build a foundation upon which divine restoration can stand firm. As you walk this path, each step taken in faith draws you closer to the full realization of God's promise for your life. In the stillness of your heart, feel the truth that your Creator desires only good for you, that every path, even those marked by loss, leads to a higher purpose. Allow this truth to resonate deeply, to anchor you in moments of uncertainty. When you feel unsteady, return to this core belief that God's plan for you is a plan of peace, joy, and restoration. Hold this vision close, for in doing so, you are nurturing the seeds of new beginnings, seeds that will blossom into a life filled with renewed hope and purpose. Each day, let your thoughts dwell on images of abundance. Let your heart rest in the assurance that God's love encompasses all things, restoring even what seems impossible. Imagine just for a moment a future where every loss has been turned into a gift, where every sorrow has blossomed into joy. This is not mere fantasy, but a divine promise that is as real as your faith will allow it to be. Accept this vision, hold it close, and let it become the reality you walk in. When doubts come, remind yourself that they are but fleeting shadows, and in the presence of divine light, all shadows disappear. Your role is not to understand every step of the journey, but to trust in the one who guides you. With every moment spent in faith, you are aligning with God's promise, drawing closer to the restoration of all things. Know that God is always at work, always orchestrating, always bringing forth blessings that exceed your expectations. Let your heart be at peace, knowing that in divine timing, all things are made whole. In the quiet moments, rest in the knowledge that what was lost is on its way back to you, renewed and blessed beyond measure. Walk forward, not with worry or regret, but with a heart full of faith, knowing that you are held, loved, and restored by a power that knows no end. Embrace this truth deeply, knowing that the love of God is the bedrock upon which your life is built. Even when the outer world seems uncertain or fragile, this divine foundation is unshakable. In the quiet spaces of your soul, listen for that still small voice, a voice that is eternally kind, eternally patient, and unfathomably wise. It tells you that everything you have lost, everything that feels broken, is already being prepared for restoration. Imagine as you sit with this thought the gentle and miraculous ways in which your life can be transformed. Restoration is not a hurried act, it is a sacred unfolding, a blossoming of divine love and abundance in your life. Each day is an opportunity to practice this awareness, to turn your gaze inward, where true restoration begins. Understand that your inner world, the sanctuary of your mind and heart, is the true source of everything that manifests outwardly. The divine is constantly speaking, constantly affirming, constantly creating, and you are its vessel. When you think thoughts of love, hope, and renewal, you are harmonizing with this divine flow. Your life becomes a testament to the creative power of faith, a faith that can transcend loss and bring forth blessings where there once seemed to be only emptiness. Allow yourself to rest in this divine certainty, in the knowledge that all things are possible for those who believe. Remember, God is not only capable of restoring what has been lost, but delights in doing so, bringing you into a greater understanding of divine love and abundance. In this journey, patience becomes your ally, for divine timing is a mystery that requires your trust. Know that every delay is purposeful. Every moment of waiting is a part of the greater tapestry that is being woven for your life. The threads of loss, woven together with the threads of faith, create a masterpiece beyond what the human mind can comprehend. Imagine yourself as a part of this divine masterpiece. See every challenge, every heartbreak, as a brushstroke in the grand artwork of your life. Stand in awe of the beauty that is emerging. even if you cannot see the full picture yet. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be, that every experience is shaping you, molding you into the person capable of receiving all that is meant for you. There is an immense peace in surrendering to this process, in letting go of the need to understand every step, and instead allowing yourself to simply be led. When you release control, you open yourself up to the miraculous. You create space within yourself for divine energy to flow freely, unhindered by doubt or fear. In this openness, you become like a child again, full of wonder and trust, receptive to the boundless gifts of the Creator. Remember that true faith is not about forcing outcomes, but about trusting that the highest good is always unfolding, even when the path is not immediately clear. With each step, remind yourself that you are walking in the light of God's promise, a promise that is unbreakable, unshakable, and infinitely loving. In this state of faith, begin to envision your life as fully restored. See it in vivid detail, feel the joy of having everything you need, the peace of being exactly where you are meant to be. This vision is not merely wishful thinking, it is a divine instruction, a call to align with the truth of who you are and the blessings that are inherently yours. Let this vision be your guiding star, a light that keeps you steady and hopeful, even in moments of uncertainty. Remember, the mind that holds on to divine images, images of wholeness, will see them reflected in the outer world in due time. As you walk through each day, cultivate a heart of gratitude, not only for what you see, but also for what you know is on its way. This gratitude is a powerful affirmation that signals your readiness to receive. It tells the universe, I am open, I am receptive. I trust in the process even before restoration becomes visible. Let your gratitude be unwavering. Know that this thankfulness creates an energetic field around you, a magnetic force that draws blessings into your life. In your mind's eye, see these blessings pouring over you like rain, filling every area of your life with abundance and grace. Let your actions align with this faith. Walk with a sense of expectancy, treating each moment as though it holds the key to your restoration. When you feel discouraged, remind yourself that the same God who created the universe is within you, guiding every step, orchestrating every detail. There is no obstacle too great, no loss too deep. That divine love cannot heal. You are not powerless, you are a co-creator with God, capable of transforming your reality through the power of belief. Your role is simply to hold the vision, to maintain your faith, and to trust that the process is working in your favor. In moments of silence, when the world around you grows quiet, feel the presence of God more closely than ever. Know that this presence is never far, that it is always within, ready to lift you, to heal you, to restore you. Let this divine presence be your source of comfort and strength. Feel it within you, a quiet force that sustains you, that whispers words of encouragement and love. In this silence, you are reminded of your true nature, of the power that resides within you, and of the limitless potential for restoration that God has placed in your soul. Every step you take in faith strengthens this connection, deepens this bond. Your trust in divine timing is a testament to your understanding that God's ways are perfect, that nothing is ever lost but simply transformed. And as you continue to walk in faith, as you hold on to the vision of a life restored, know that you are not only creating a future for yourself but inspiring those around you. Your journey becomes a beacon of hope, a testament to the transformative power of faith and divine love. When you encounter others who are experiencing loss, you will find yourself filled with compassion, for you understand the journey they are on. You will see in them the same divine spark, the same potential for renewal. And in sharing your faith, your vision, you become a vessel for God's love, helping others to see that they too are worthy of restoration. This is the ripple effect of divine love, an unending cycle of healing, growth, and transformation. You become not only a recipient of God's grace, but also a channel for it, spreading the message of hope and renewal to all those who cross your path. This journey of restoration is a sacred one, an unfolding that allows you to experience the fullness of God's love. Each day brings new opportunities to see the divine in all things, to recognize that every moment, every encounter is part of the tapestry of restoration. Trust that your life is in divine hands. that every piece of your story is being woven together with care and intention. There is no randomness, no accident, only the perfect order of God's love guiding you toward wholeness. As you move forward, let this journey be one of joy, even in the face of challenges. Embrace the unfolding of your life with an open heart, knowing that you are always held, always loved, and always being restored. Every experience you have, every lesson learned is part of a divine alchemy transforming your soul and preparing you to receive what is meant for you. Even when you feel weary, even when your path seems unclear, trust that there is a larger design at work, a plan that is far beyond the limitations of human understanding. Each trial, each loss, is simply a stepping stone toward the blessings that are waiting to unfold in your life. Remember that faith isn't just about belief, it's about knowing, a deep inner knowing that God's promise of restoration is already fulfilled. When you rest in this knowing, you release the need to control or force outcomes. You become a vessel for divine grace, a witness to the beauty of surrender. This act of letting go is not a passive one, it is filled with quiet strength and unshakable resolve. It's a declaration that you trust God's timing, that you believe His plans are perfect, even when they don't align with your own. As you surrender, you create space for miracles. You invite divine guidance to take the lead, knowing that what is coming is even greater than what you could imagine. In this space of surrender, begin to view every moment as sacred. Each day is an invitation to witness the divine at work, even in the smallest details. When you truly open your eyes, you'll start to see signs of restoration everywhere, small miracles that remind you that God is near, orchestrating every detail with precision and love. Perhaps it's a renewed sense of peace, a comforting word from a friend, or a moment of beauty in nature that speaks to your soul. These are whispers of the divine, gentle reminders that you are not alone, that every loss is being turned into gain. Allow yourself to dwell in these moments, to soak in the beauty of God's love surrounding you. Let this love fill you with confidence, knowing that you are deserving of every blessing that is on its way. Sometimes the act of receiving is the most profound act of faith, for it acknowledges that you are worthy in the eyes of the Creator. There is no need to earn this love, no need to prove your worthiness. It is given freely, abundantly, and unconditionally. When you truly accept this, when you open your heart to receive, you unlock the doors to restoration. Picture yourself standing at the threshold of this new beginning, this divine renewal. Feel the energy of possibility swirling around you, an energy that is vibrant and alive. Imagine that every aspect of your life is touched by this divine presence, your relationships, your work, your dreams, and your spirit. See them all transformed, renewed, filled with purpose and joy. This vision is not a distant hope, but a reality that is already unfolding. Every time you return to this image in your mind, you bring it closer into being, aligning yourself with the very essence of divine creation. When challenges arise, let them serve as reminders of your inner strength and resilience. These moments are not setbacks, but catalysts for growth, pushing you to deepen your faith, to trust in God's wisdom more fully. Know that you are never given more than you can handle, for within you lies a divine power that can overcome any obstacle. With each difficulty, you are being refined, shaped into the person who is ready to embrace the fullness of God's restoration. You are becoming a testament to faith, a living example of the transformative power of divine love. In these times, call upon the strength within you, a strength that is not your own but is a gift from the Creator. Feel it rise within you, giving you courage, filling you with hope. Remind yourself that you are never alone, that divine presence is with you, guiding you, protecting you. This strength is your anchor, a steady foundation that keeps you grounded when the waves of life become turbulent. With each breath, reaffirm your faith, your belief in the promise of restoration. Let this faith be the compass that guides you forward, step by step, toward the life that is waiting for you. As you move forward, bring a spirit of gratitude into each day. Even before you see the full manifestation of restoration, begin to thank God for what is coming. This gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a powerful affirmation, a declaration that you believe in God's promise. With each thankful thought, you align yourself with the energy of abundance, creating a fertile ground for blessings to grow. Let this gratitude fill your heart, knowing that you are already blessed beyond measure, that God's gifts are already on their way to you. In the quiet moments, allow yourself to reflect on the journey you have walked. See how far you have come, the strength you have gained, the lessons you have learned. Recognize that every step, even the painful ones, has been necessary, shaping you into the person you are today. You are not who you once were, you have been transformed by grace, renewed by faith. Embrace this growth, honor this transformation, and let it fill you with pride and peace. You are a testament to resilience, a living example of the power of faith, a witness to the divine love that restores. Imagine yourself sharing this journey with others, not from a place of loss, but from a place of restoration. See yourself as a beacon of hope, a light for those who are still in darkness. Your story becomes a message of faith, a reminder that God's love is always at work, that restoration is always possible. You are not only a recipient of God's grace, but a vessel for it, sharing the message of hope and renewal with all who need it. Through your faith, you inspire others to believe in the power of restoration, to trust in God's promise for their own lives. With each step, you are walking into a future that is bright and full of possibility. Feel the joy of this unfolding, the peace of knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that the journey of restoration is a sacred one, filled with moments of grace and beauty that will reveal themselves in perfect time. As you hold this vision, remember that you are not alone, that God's presence is with you, guiding you, loving you, restoring you. Imagine each step as a prayer, each breath as a declaration that you are aligned with God's plan. You are not merely waiting for restoration, you are actively participating in it, embodying the divine trust and faith that open doors to miraculous transformation. With every moment, with every heartbeat, you are drawing nearer to the fulfillment of God's promises. Let this understanding fill you with serenity. You do not need to rush, for divine timing is perfect. What is meant for you will come, not a moment too soon or too late, but exactly when it is destined. Visualize your soul as a vessel filling with the light of God's presence. Feel this light wash away doubt, replace fear with courage, and turn worry into peace. You are being renewed, not only in the visible aspects of your life, but deep within, where real change begins. This process is unfolding in silence and in peace, much like seeds that grow beneath the earth before breaking through the surface. Trust in this quiet, invisible work. Though you may not yet see the fruits of your faith, know that growth is happening, that transformation is underway. Allow your heart to open to this truth: God's love is the most potent force of all, capable of resurrecting dreams, restoring what seems lost, and creating beauty from ashes. There is no obstacle too great, no wound too deep, that His love cannot heal. Each prayer you offer, each moment of stillness, invites this love to work in your life. And as you surrender to it, you become a reflection of this divine energy, radiating hope and resilience. Others will see this light within you and be inspired, for you are living proof of restoration's power. Imagine yourself standing in a place of complete peace, knowing that everything you have prayed for, everything you have dreamed of, is coming into being. Feel the gratitude that wells up within you, the sense of being profoundly cared for by the Creator of all things. Even in moments when life tests your faith, remember that you are not abandoned, you are in the sacred process of becoming. Each challenge, each delay is shaping you, refining you, preparing you to receive all that you have asked for. This journey is not only about gaining, but about becoming, about awakening to the truth of who you are in God. Begin to see every experience, every person, as part of this divine tapestry, each thread adding to the beauty of life's design. There is meaning in every encounter, wisdom in every lesson, even those that come through difficulty. Trust that nothing is wasted in God's plan. Each moment is a building block in the foundation of your destiny. With this perspective, you find peace in the waiting, knowing that each day brings you closer to the fulfillment of God's promises. Think of restoration not only as the return of what was lost, but as the renewal of something even greater. Imagine that for every hardship endured, for every tear shed, God is preparing a blessing that will surpass your expectations. This is the divine equation for everything surrendered, something greater is returned. You are not simply regaining what was taken, you are receiving an upgrade, a transformation, a gift that aligns with the new person you have become. As you move forward in faith, keep your heart open to the subtle signs of restoration. Sometimes it may be a quiet moment of peace, a gentle nudge of intuition, or a small blessing that affirms God's presence. These moments are divine reminders that you are on the right path, that the restoration you seek is drawing near. Each sign, each whisper from the divine, serves as a beacon guiding you through the darkness and into the light of a new beginning. In the stillness of your heart, know that you are deeply loved and infinitely worthy of all the goodness that is coming to you. Allow this truth to be the foundation upon which you stand, unshaken and unwavering. When you live from this place of inner security, you are no longer swayed by the world's opinions or circumstances. Your faith becomes unbreakable, a powerful force that attracts blessings to you like a magnet. God's promises are written into your very being, and as you trust in them, you unlock the abundance that is already yours. Each day, affirm that you are a co-creator with God, that your faith and trust are essential components of this process. Through your belief, you are actively shaping your reality, participating in the manifestation of God's promises. See yourself as a divine collaborator, working in harmony with the universe to bring forth the blessings destined for you. As you take this approach, you begin to understand that restoration is not only a gift you receive, but a divine process you partake in. Feel the power of your words, the strength of your intentions as they go out into the world. Each positive thought, each prayer of gratitude builds the energy of restoration around you. You are not waiting idly, you are creating, actively inviting God's grace into every area of your life. When you speak words of faith, you are watering the seeds of your destiny, nurturing the garden of your life with the power of divine intention. As you continue on this path, let go of any need for approval, any desire for validation from others. Your journey is between you and God, a sacred relationship that requires no external endorsement. Walk confidently, knowing that the divine presence within you is all the validation you need. Each step you take is blessed, each action aligned with divine purpose. You are walking in the footsteps of grace, and nothing can hinder the blessings that are destined for you. When you encounter setbacks, remember that they are not roadblocks but redirections. Each challenge serves to guide you closer to your true path, refining your spirit, building your resilience. Embrace these moments with gratitude, knowing that they are part of God's design for your life. Each challenge overcome, each difficulty faced with faith, strengthens your connection to the divine. You become a testament to God's power, a living example of His ability to bring beauty out of hardship. Your journey of restoration is not only about reclaiming what was lost, but about discovering a deeper connection with the divine. It is a journey of awakening, of realizing that you are not separate from God, but deeply intertwined with His love and purpose. As you walk this path, you begin to see that the ultimate restoration is not just in the material, but in the spiritual. You are being restored to your true self, to a deeper understanding of who you are in God. Let this realization fill you with peace, for you are exactly where you need to be, on a journey that is sacred and unique to you. Embrace this path with joy, knowing that you are supported, loved, and guided every step of the way. You are a child of the divine, a soul that has been chosen to experience the beauty of restoration. Every loss, every challenge has served to bring you closer to this moment of renewal, where all things are made new. As you move forward, carry this vision of restoration in your heart. See it as a flame that cannot be extinguished, a light that guides you through any darkness. Let this vision fuel your faith, inspire your dreams, and remind you of the love that surrounds you always. You are not walking this path alone. You are held by the Creator, uplifted by His grace, empowered by His love. Trust in this, believe in this, for it is the foundation of your journey. And as you live in this truth, you become a beacon for others, a light in a world that often forgets its divine origin. You remind others of the power of faith, the beauty of surrender, the joy of restoration. Through your journey, you inspire others to seek their own connection with the divine, to believe in the possibility of renewal. Your life becomes a testament, a message of hope that speaks to all who witness it. You are a living example of the power of God's love, a reminder that restoration is always possible, that no loss is beyond redemption. Feel this truth resonate within you, a truth that transcends all fear and doubt. You are being restored, renewed, transformed. And as you walk this path with unwavering faith, you are stepping into the fullness of your destiny, embracing the life that God has prepared for you, a life of abundance, peace, and joy. The journey of restoration is not only about regaining what was lost, but about stepping into a higher version of yourself, a self that is aligned with the divine and ready to receive all the blessings that await. Let this journey be a celebration of God's love, a testament to His faithfulness, and a reminder that all things are possible through faith. You are walking in the grace of restoration, and as you continue on this path, you will see that every promise, every dream, every desire is already fulfilled in God's perfect timing. Let your heart be filled with joy, for you are a beloved child of the divine, chosen, cherished, and infinitely worthy of every blessing that is on its way to you. As you stand in this moment, filled with faith and hope, remember that the restoration you seek is already unfolding within you. It is not a distant promise, but a present reality. Every challenge you faced, every loss you've endured, has been part of the divine process, shaping you for the blessings that are now making their way to you. Trust in the power of God's love, which restores, renews, and transforms all things. Know that as you continue to walk in faith, embracing the truth of your divine worth, you are stepping into the fullness of your destiny, a destiny where every promise is fulfilled and every loss is returned in abundance. Embrace this journey with gratitude, for each day brings you closer to the life God has planned for you. Rest in the assurance that He has never left you and that His divine hand is at work in every moment. You are not merely waiting for restoration, you are actively living it. So rise with confidence, knowing that all you have lost will be restored and much more. In God's time, in His way, all things will be made new, and you will walk in the abundance, peace, and joy that are your birthright. Trust this process, trust His love, and above all, trust that restoration is not just coming, it has already begun.